What's up, everybody? Today we're going to talk about decay iteration, and it's related to the problem of mu synthesis. And we have talked about mu analysis problem, right, in the previous video. And now you can think of it as the general control problem. What was the general control problem? For a given controller, determine if the internal stability exists, right? Or the given controller determine if the given controller satisfy our control and also, of course, performance objectives, right? And that was the for a given controller determine ... is the typical analysis problem, right? And comparing it to the general synthesis problems, they're easier, right? And so what I'm trying to say is that in the previous sections, right, what we have seen is kind of similar in a way. And now we are going to talk about synthesis problem, and it's going to be a little more involved, right? And I will do my best to explain it clearly, right? Okay, so first of all, this is what we have. We have talked about this. We have talked about how to derive delta, maybe the structure of delta, right? Here, the perturbation, we call it, right? And also P, right? The plant here, and or augmented plant or generalized plant, right? And okay, we don't know this, and we also know this at this stage, okay? These are the things that we don't know. And mu synthesis problem is that give me a K, right? Give me a K, such control, of course, such that the performance, and when we say performance, is generally the exogenous, the gain, quote unquote, gain from the disturbance or the exogenous input, right, signal, to our objective signal or regulated output signal, right? Okay, so we want to design a controller such that the gain or the negative effects of the exogenous signals on the regulated outputs is minimized. Okay, and okay, first design a, all right, now I'm going to state the problem once again. Design a controller K such that the gain from W to Z is minimized. Considering, and this is the interesting part comes in, right? Considering the worst perturbation. Okay. Also account the fact that there is a quote unquote player, right? And it's a small, parenthesis. I want to talk about a small note. The game theory, right, and Nash equilibrium, that kind of concepts kind of enters into the control design. Of course, I don't know anything about game theory, etc., right? However, this is the kind of section or the chapter where you see control theory and game theory kind of overlaps. All right. Considering, okay, now I'm going to state the problem once again. Design a K such that the gain from W to Z is minimized, considering this player, this delta perturbation, is doing its best to make our job hard, right? Okay, so this is the extremely official, right, and mathematical definition of the mu synthesis problem. All right, and of course, I mean, delta or perturbation have to be bounded, otherwise it can be like infinity, and it wouldn't be possible to design a K at all, right? So it has that perturbation. It, of course, it has some constraints that it needs to satisfy. All right. Okay. So let's record that. How? And I'm, by the way, I'm considering that you know how to design H infinity control, right? I mean, at least I'm not talking about the numerical aspects of the, design. I'm considering you know how to formulate an H infinity framework, of the control problem in an H infinity framework, and then solve it by using MATLAB, right? And hopefully in the future we're going to see how we would solve using YOLMIP, right? And also some STP solver you need to use, and STP-T3 is my STP solver. And I wanna state, and I am getting a lot of emails about this, I'm not officially sponsored by MATLAB, YOLMIP, and SCP-T3, and that's of course a joke. Why would anybody? Okay, I'm not getting any emails. That was a joke. Okay, and so now you see, control people can make jokes. Now let's continue, right? Okay, this is the location where we are, right? And we want to design K. Okay, so first step, just ignore the perturbation. Okay, just ignore. There is nothing trying to make our job harder than it is. Okay, and so what we have is here. So consider this part as a just one here exogenous input. Okay, all right, so we just formulated our problem in a different way and consider these two signals as one. Of course, these are vector signals, right? One regulated output signal. Okay, so by the way, we know what P1 is at this, we're here, right? We know what P1 is, right? It's a transfer function matrix, and we know what it is. Okay, so, and by the way, if you recall that, this is exactly what we have seen in the H infinity framework. So the first step is, in control theory, is to accept that you have a problem. Of course, that's another joke. And first step is here at this stage, right? Just design a K using H infinity framework. Okay, let's continue. So we didn't know K, and now we are considering that we have designed a K, and now we know what K is. Okay, it's again a transfer function matrix, right? Okay, so dk iteration. By the way, that's just a couple of sentence for that. Dk iteration. So let's decompose that terminology. D and K, right? So K here is the controller. So it is iteration, by the way. It's an iterative process, right? We are going to design a K, and then we are going to design a D. But we don't know what D means. Maybe you might have some ideas about it, right? Because in the previous videos, of course, when we were talking about the mu analysis problem, we were kind of mentioning D blocks, D squares, right? Okay, so once again, dk iteration is a problem where we design K and then design D and then design K, and in each step, for example, H infinite problem here at this stage, right? We know what P1 is, and we want to design a controller, and it can be considered as or represented as a convex optimization in LMI form, right? Convex optimization problem. And when somebody says convex, you need to kind of smile and be happy about it, right? And okay, so it's a simple problem in a way, okay? And all right, now we have seen the K part of it, and now we are going to see the D part of it, okay? And let's proceed. So now we know what K is here. This was the part we have started, okay? And now we know K is, so just using linear fractional transformation, right? LFT here, just obtain N, right? This is simple, manipulation, right? If the dimension is not even enough, if the dimension is kind of tractable, right? Is like 3, 4 maybe, right? You can even do that by hand, okay? So we are at this stage here. We are at this stage. Look at the block diagram under the red bar. Okay, so here we know what n is, okay? And now we are going to design delta, the perturbation. And delta has some like that type of constraints, okay? And here we are going to look at the problem, and since we are trying to minimize the gain from W to Z, and minimizing the problem of minimization from W to Z is a performance problem, right? We are going to take a different approach, okay, in the decay iteration. And what decay iteration suggests is that you are trying to find a delta, right, such that W, the gain, quote unquote, W for gain from W to Z is minimized, right? So why not close loop and represent the relationship between Z and W by using another uncertainty, okay, such that it tries to maximize the gain of W to Z, right? Okay, it actually makes sense if you think about it. Okay. At this stage, we don't know if that is, I mean, in optimization, most of the time, you can see two problems and they're like exactly similar. They look exactly similar. However, there is only a one change of variables, right? One change of variables, and you think like, hey, of course they may lead to the same result, and it may not be the case. So in optimization, sometimes the intuitive result is the, you know, may not be what you get. Okay, all right. So it can be counterintuitive is what I'm saying. All right. So here we are at this stage, right? And we have called the dynamic relationship between Z and W delta P. P for performance, right? And here the delta is like the uncertainty, and so you can also represent it by calling delta underscore UNC, right? Uncertainty, all right? Because it can represent dynamical and parameter related uncertainties. Okay, so let's have a little, refreshment and refresh our memories about the mu analysis, right? Here we are at this stage, and we basically want to determine the mu value, right? All right, considering our perturbation. Okay, what we will do in that case, by the way, n is n of s, right? N of s, it's like transfer function matrix. Okay, so we have a frequency range, right? It can be like 0.000, maybe another couple of zeros, 1 radian per second, right? 2 to 10 radian per second, for example. Let's say it can be the case where the only frequency range we are interested is like this, right? This region, so this interval, and the brute force, or what you will think about that, right? If you were kind of an optimization person and not a control person, you will think like, just discretize the frequency range and then solve, because we can solve the problem for a given frequency, right? Because for a given frequency, n of s is, let's call it W1, okay? I'm sorry, omega 1. Let's be a little more notation, okay, aware about this. And for and omega 1 dot 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 and omega 1000, for example. Okay, we have discretized it, maybe using MATLAB log space or something, right? And okay, here we are at this stage. So n of s for a given frequency is a just, and by the way, don't be Nazi about the dimension. So you may think, hey, you are always saying n by n. I'm just stating that it's a matrix. I'm not being like dimension aware at this stage. So n1 is a complex matrix, okay, and we want to find the mu value for a given perturbation. Okay, here we are at this stage, right? And then in the previous video, when we were talking about the mu analysis problem, we have talked about this type of manipulation. Okay, what is this? First of all, let's just think about D being a non-singular matrix, right? And then here we can see D times D is identity, and here we also can see D inverse times D is identity. So in a way, we haven't changed anything, right? However, if we can also impose a constraint on this D scale is called, right? And that's saying, and the constraint can be stated as D commutes with the perturbation. And by the way, I stated that delta hat, right? Here, this is delta hat, okay, as one block, right? And D commutes with the perturbation. All right, what good does it do? I mean, we haven't changed anything, and okay, let's say it commutes with the perturbation. So what's the benefit of that? The benefit is this. You realize that in the previous videos, for a given complex matrix and also a structure, perturbation structure, this problem is actually really incredibly hard, okay? And it's NP complete. I don't know what it is, but it means hard in computer engineering dictionary, I guess. Okay, I'm just an electrical engineer, okay? And however, this problem is way easier, okay? So just we need to find a D, right? And here, this is what we are doing. That's kind of related to this thing that we have talked about this, right, previously. So maybe I should delete that. Okay, let's continue. Okay, let's focus on this part, right? This is the mu synthesis or mu analysis problem, and also it says at the end of what we have, right, is D's, right? And for every frequency we have here, let me just state that. Okay, we are here, okay, and for every frequency for given finite state frequency points, just find D matrices, okay? And of course D matrix is like 2 by 2, let's say, right? And there are like 4 CISO, there are like 4 terms. This is D for omega 1, and here this is another D for omega 2 dot dot dot, right? So we have this type of structure, right? And each and maybe get some other color, right? And each of them, okay, it looks actually cool actually, right? Let me make it purple, right? So here we have basically, we have basically 4 CISO systems. Why do I say CISO? First of all, let's focus on this red term. Red term, okay? What is that red term? It is a complex number for a given frequency, right? Or red terms, by the way, right? It's a complex number, and every complex number, let's call it 1 plus 3j, right? It has its magnitude and also the angle, right? Okay, argument, right? So you just plot that, and what you see is a transfer function. So you need to quote unquote fit a transfer function matrix for d omega, right? You have this type of structure, this type of, right? And just fits, and each of them, each entry is a CISO. So I just focus on only one entry of d omega, right? To make things clear, right? And all right. And here, the fitting part is another issue, is another numerical problem. Maybe in the future, hopefully, right? When I get to that point, we will talk about that in detail, hopefully, right? And however, let's focus on this, or let's consider it is something other smart people solve for us use, okay? So let's consider it as like an eigenvalue problem. It's like already solved. We don't want to know about the details that goes into that, but let's just assume it's something that we can do easily, right? All right. So after that, and since we have d omega, and then we have fitted d of s, right? Basically from d omega, right? To, and by the way, d omega is a complex matrix, right? D of s, what is that? It is transfer function matrix. Okay, so this is where we are, and since we have defined D such that it commutes with the perturbation, so it commutes, right? So it can be here, and here D inverse times D is identity and nothing change, right? So we only have our perturbation, okay, right? By the way, external, it's like the control problem that we talk about, the mu analysis problem, mu sense problem, decay iteration, right? We are trying to design a controller, and external perturbations are doing their best, right? And here, like, let me just give you a real life example. For some reason, whenever I talk about, I start recording, the external noise, the ambulance, the police sirens, etc., they're doing the best to, put some noises, right? And maybe what they're trying to minimize is that my view count, it may be, right? Okay. And so me designing controller is making these videos such, okay, what's my objective? You may think that objective is like a increasing view count. To be honest with you, yeah, that like a standard objective. However, I'm just recording these videos for my own, documentation reasons. And okay, after this real life anecdote, let's focus on this. Here, let's look at this block diagram. Since we know that D and perturbations commute, right? We manipulated these variables to obtain these variables, right? And also, we define this, and we just gather them up, right? And So look at this here. Okay, so this was the problem that we have started, and then we found k, right? Define k, and then actually we were trying to find delta, but it was easier to find these scales, and I decompose them to make the kind of difference clear, difference between the uncertainty perturbation and also the performance perturbation, right? So just to, you know, make things a little more easier. And okay, so this is the k we found in the first step, and this is the p that we started our problem with. And now what we need to do is just look at the problem. Look at this problem. Okay, here you can see I'm just maybe, yeah, just look at this and this. Okay, we just manipulated that problem here, and now since we know what d1, d2 and their inverses, by the way, another really important information, we are trying to find in the d stage of the decay iteration, right, method, we are trying to find d, but we can only find it in the omega form, right? And let's call it is 2 by 2, right? And for each of them we have magnitude and angle, right? And we quote unquote fit d of s or dij of s for each entry, okay? And the constraint is that CISO systems must be stable and minimum phase, right? Okay, let me maybe write stable and minimum phase transfer functions, okay, here, and let me just delete them. Okay, here we also know what these are, right? And now I'm going to commit something that's going to be hard. Okay, it's like a surgical operation. Okay, and all right. Okay, so we know this, and also this, right? And we also know this. This is the p that we have started our problem with. And what we are trying to say is that we know all the blocks in this red rectangle, right? So it can be considered as a one plant, right? And from here we can just focus on here, and we know p hat, I call it p hat, right? To this block I call it p hat. From here we transform this problem to that location, and this is the exact first part that we have solved, right? Again, design a k using H infinity framework, right? So okay, and then let's go to the first part here. We at this stage, right, we design a controller, and then we just from here we continue, right? So this is an iteration, decay iteration. Find k and then find by using that k, find d, right? And then continue to that process, and you are trying to, you have two variables, right? D and k, and maybe I should look at the more like good definition. Okay, I am looking at this, and there should be another way for that. Yeah, wait a sec. Looking at this, I'm starting to think this is a mistake, but wait a sec. Okay, I'm going to state the problem. Here, like INF, infimum, right? And just, where is the problem? Yeah, okay, k, and k can be in a given set. You might like your controller to be also in H infinity, meaning stable, right? Okay, and then supremum, right? Omega in R, okay, and also infimum d omega in dk. And since our like perturbations in like k set, and our d's needs to commute with the perturbations, these must be in dk set, okay, and sigma max, right? Maybe I should get them to this location, right? Okay, I have some space here, and d omega, and I'm going to call it FL P PK, okay, and again d inverse omega, right? Okay, so this is the problem basically. However, it is not convex, jointly convex in d and k, right? And that's, however, when we keep k constant, fixed, this inner problem is convex. And also, if we keep d fixed, right, for all d terms like fixed, it is convex in k. So first, it also always, or I want to put a pointer on that, but like always, let's say, but take it with a grain of salt, converges. However, it may not converge to the global minimum, right? Because it is not convex in d and k jointly. So this is not convex. So by using gradient descent type algorithms, you may not and probably will not converge into the global minimum, right? But that's not the end of the world. It's always stated in practical problems, it always gives satisfactory results, satisfactory performance, right? And that's what matters. And also, since it, for fixed d, it's convex in k, and also for fixed k, it's convex in d, it is in a way a convex problem, right? Meaning it can be solved for like even middle size, quote unquote middle size. I'm taking that terminology from the Young 1993 Caltech thesis, right? And I'm reading his thesis. It's like very incredible, and learning a lot. And also I'm learning how much I don't know anything about control, and that's also a humbling experience. And what was I going to say? Yeah, for middle-sized problems, meaning like uncertain parameters, like 100, all 100 or less, up to 100 uncertain parameters, you can design mu synthesis control, right? And that's a great news. And okay, and that's the end, I guess, right? In the future, we are going to see how we would implement that in MATLAB, hopefully, but don't count on that. Hopefully, in the real extreme future, right? By using YOLMIP, because mu synthesis problem in YOLMIP, it really, you need to know the ins and outs of the whole process. And because, and first we have talked about decay iteration. There is also, it's like, it's something that's been mentioned in, or based on Young thesis, right? DJK iteration, right? And again I'm going to write Young 1993 thesis. By the way, speaking of this document, I checked the link in the description below, and I'm going to put a link to that PDF document, the Young thesis, right? And it's a good read if you are in control, right? And yeah, there is also another thing called DJK iteration, and it considers, for example, all the perturbations we have considered are complex, right? There was not a situation where, yeah, that perturbation, let's say delta 1 and delta 2, right? And delta 1 is, we know for a fact that D1 is real, right? Is a real number set. We haven't talked about that case. We only talk about the cases where DI is in complex, right? And decay iteration you use for complex perturbation case. However, if you know for a fact that one of your parameters, or you represent the problem in such a way that your in some entries are real, right? You would use DGK iteration, because that will give us less conservative solutions, right? Meaning the K with better performance, specific, right? Okay. And all right, in the future we are going to look at the H infinity in MATLAB, and hopefully in the YOLMIP in the future, and then mu analysis and mu synthesis in MATLAB, and hopefully, but don't count on that, mu synthesis in YOLMIP. Okay. And because I don't know how would I formulate the whole iteration process in an LMI framework, but I will try. But I know how will I formulate H infinity problem in YOLMIP, right, in LMI, because there was a really good tutorial video on YouTube that I watched. Okay, and that's it. Thanks for watching, and